You have probably bought some synthesizer or music gear that you don't necessarily need in your production, but you got it because it's a fun hobby and it might perhaps be the thing that you need to inspire you to create something new. And that is, of course, perfectly fine. For me, it took many years to buy my first hardware synthesizer, and the first one I actually bought was the Axis Virus TI2 back in the day. I talked about it in a video above here. The video is pretty cringy, but that's how we roll around here. When I got the Axis Virus, we had just gotten twins 13 years ago today. We had another toddler running around on the floor, so the synth boiled down to just being a preset player for my case, and I didn't really have the time to learn programming it or learn to program synthesizers because I didn't know that 13 years ago. We had also just bought a townhouse that badly needed renovations. It still does. I ended up selling the Axis Virus after not so long because I didn't really have the time to learn it. I kind of regret that. It was the white desktop special edition and it would fit nicely with the subsequent 37CV I have in the studio here. Now, the only hardware synthesizer I have now is the Moog subsequent 37CV, and I love it. It's easy to program, it creates awesome sounds, and I always happen to find a place for it in my tracks. Sometimes the Moog is the main character of my tracks. And other times it's just playing perhaps a bass line in the background. My point is, the Moog I have here in the studio, the only hardware synthesizer, is very usable, and it's almost always something I include in the productions I make. The rest of my productions, or gear, synthesizers if you will, is being done in the box using software synthesizers and samples, and honestly I haven't really felt the need to buy another sound source. I'm feeling I'm getting kind of into the software versus hardware discussion here, but honestly I don't think it's possible to come to any sort of conclusion around that. It's like the Apple versus Windows discussion or the iPhone versus Android discussion. It's never going to end, and we are not going to agree on what's best. And I don't think you can quantify it that way, because the word best may have different meanings for people. In the end, we are talking about artistic stuff here. So best for you, that may be the insane, exact, precise oscillators from the Serum synthesizer, and best for another person might be the unstableness and somewhat unpredictability from an analog synthesizer. It depends on what your end goal is and what you personally value, not what I value, your neighbor, or some unknown keyboard warrior on the internet like me. I haven't bought a new hardware synthesizer yet because the reasonable part of me is saying that I don't really need it. However, that doesn't mean I have been looking at the OB6, a synthesizer that costs $4,000 for the keyboard version, $3,000 for the desktop version, or looking at the Prophet 10 or perhaps another Moog. If I get some of said synthesizers, I obviously have to make a review video of it, and when I watch other YouTubers like BoBeats, Sonic State, Red Means Recording, Venus Theory, and others, you name it. These people are highly experienced YouTubers with credentials behind them, and I wouldn't be able to match their professionalism and competence in this field. The only thing I could do, which is truly myself, is to just show off the hardware, perhaps in a production I'm working on, because that is what I would like to see when I shop for new gear and kind of check it out on YouTube. I want to see how the end result would look like using said gear, so maybe that is a path I can take in the future. And that doesn't mean I don't value the videos where you kind of can see every preset. You can hear the raw sound of the synthesizers. That's really important as well, but that's not something I think I am capable of doing. Maybe in the future, we'll see. So ultimately, if I end up buying something like the OB6 or a Prophet 5 or a Prophet 10, it's not because I need it, it's because I want it, and that's of course all right if you have the possibility of doing so. The money aspect is a barrier as well. So if I splurge on something, on a synthesizer, expensive synthesizer, that would mean selling off some investments. But it would be possible, and I realized that it's a privileged position. But as you get older, like me, it's smart to have some capital saved if you get fired from your work or something happens. So it's the balance there. So I'm not saying I am never going to buy a new hardware synthesizer, but I think it has to be something that adds to my workflow, and it doesn't take away time from production or other things, because when you have a day job, you don't have much time. And just making a video like this can just take a few hours with editing and writing scripts and everything. So you have to be mindful about the time, and if you get some kind of gear, you get obsessed with it for a few weeks and you kind of don't get to do the other important things, which is, in my case, like a video like this or music production or something else. Make sure to check out the next video that pops up here, and if you want to support what I do around here, there are tons of links below to places where I have my stuff and where I am active. That's all for today. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.